Hi, I'm Charlie. I'm a senior.
Hi, I'm Andromeda. I'm a junior.
Hi, I'm Nikis. I'm a sophomore.
Hi, I'm Isabel. I'm a sophomore. Welcome back to I Can Relate, a podcast by teens, for teens, and about teens.
The I Can Relate podcast is made possible by the generosity of Lee Summit Cares.
Lee Summit Cares teen advocacy group program gives teens a voice in the community through youth-led community forums, anti-bullying campaigns, youth wellness day events, and youth advocacy days at the state capitol.
The Lee Summit Cares partnership to prevent risky behaviors coalition focuses on the strategies to make our community safe through community conversations, prescription, take-back, parenting classes, and workshops.
TAG is comprised of students from various SMART clubs in the LSR 7 school district.
Hello, and welcome to I Can Relate, a podcast by teens, for teens, and about teens. Today we're talking about the phenomenon of the euphemism treadmill and how the way we talk around our friends and the words we use, are they really okay saying in public? Could the jokes we make around each other apply elsewhere? Now, I'd like to tell a story to apply to this real quick. So I am an aide for my broadcast teacher's intro broadcasting class. It's a fun class, but we got 30 kids in there, so it's very much a trouble. You know, there's this one girl in there who very much sees it more as a social hour than it is a class, you know, so she is constantly going on, making very unfunny jokes with her friends. One time, our teacher, the broadcast teacher, is doing a review for the upcoming final, and she asks one of this girl's friends, who we'll call Z. Z is really struggling on this one question, and the other girl, who is sitting right next to me, she thinks it's a joke, but right next to me, she calls Z the R word, which is, and I tell her off for this. I say, wow, that is not okay to say. What is wrong? Don't say that. But she's not going to change her behavior. I know her. That's not going to happen, you know?
It's a phenomenon I notice a lot. I think it's a thing that I notice a lot in the hallways, where the R word is almost used as if it were slang, and definitely by people who are not, disabled in any way. So for me personally, as an autistic person, it really bothers me. I can tell these people have this sense of like the other in their mind, like this group's never going to hear it. They're in their own special class, but I'm right in the hall right next to them. They don't realize that what they think of people like autistic people, they actually have the capacity to hear what they're saying.
Have you ever been called the R word directly?
No, luckily, not directly.
Has your close circle ever joked about it in some way?
Not my close friends, but many acquaintances have around me.
Mm-hmm. What's normally your reaction when that does happen?
I do admit I do try to just ignore it or brush it off, because I know that if I come forward and tell them that's really not something you should be saying, at least in school, they're not going to listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have this idea that it's just a joke. Why can't you take a joke? When really it's not. And even if it is, no one's laughing, really. These things don't quite work in a context of wider society, instead of, okay, this has a name in comedy and the field of comedianship, in the field of comedy. They call it punching down, where you make a very weak and a very obscene joke aimed at a protected class. You make a sexist joke about women, you make a racist joke about black people, you say the R word in a throwaway joke on a stage in front of an audience that, unsurprisingly, laughs loudly, because I guess that's what they're supposed to do at a comedy club. It's a very lazy kind of comedy, and it doesn't really work. Instead of, attacking people, I know there's a lot funnier things you could say.
Most definitely. So in a large outlook, people would normally not use the R word as common, if ever, but in a close circle, you feel more comfortable and almost like it's like not going to leave this private area. And then when it does, you're either, oh, it was just a joke, or you're just the bad guy entirely, especially if you said it, or even if your friend is struggling with some kind of disability and you use a broad, almost, I wouldn't say slur-like, but extremely offensive term to describe them. That's on you. Even if it is a joke, it's still not at all cool. Like, there's a line. And people, hundreds of people daily use this line as like hopscotch, just back and forth. It's, from an outside perspective, it's very disturbing almost.
Now, a question for the lot of us. I think this could lead to something good. How often do you make jokes in your closed circle that you wouldn't in public?
Daily.
Yeah, honestly, same.
Yeah.
I make a lot of jokes, and like a big thing I've been taught by my dad is know your timing and know your audience, right? With my buddies, I talk in a very vulgar manner, I drop F-bombs and,
Charlie, how dare you?
But, like, I'm not going to make the same jokes around my parents.
Yeah,
I'm not going to, definitely not my grandparents, their Western sensibilities. Just, you got to know your audience. Yeah. And especially, like, I still won't make those jokes if I'm sitting in the school cafeteria, because that's just not smart. I might make those jokes if I'm on call, but if I'm sitting in a public area full with people, absolutely not.
Yeah. I have kind of a recurring relationship with my best friend, who I have known since kindergarten. And so these jokes are okay between us because we have that relationship. And so whenever someone, literally, people at my school will come up to me and say the exact same jokes, that we don't have that relationship. I don't know you like that. And honestly, I don't really want to. And you think it's okay to come up to me and call me this or that, or say this or that.
Isabel, what do you think about it all?
This is an interesting conversation for me because I haven't had a lot of personal experience with any of these things. The only thing that I can think about is when I was in like first grade, we had an art teacher and she was like super fun and like super outspoken. And one of the kids said the R word, and like I didn't really even hear it happen, but like she started like yelling at the kid in like front of the whole class. And so like that's like a core memory for me, because I remember her being like, we don't say that, like never say that again, that's not okay, none of you guys say that. And like I'd never actually heard the word before, so I didn't understand its significance, but like that so sticks to me with to this day, that like that's not an okay word to use like under any circumstances.
In first grade?
Yeah.
Wow, that doesn't seem like a word I would have known in first grade.
First graders are wild, man.
I didn't even know how to speak in first grade, I'm not gonna lie.
I find it interesting too, because my little brother, he's in 5th grade right now, and some of the things that he says kind of scare me, honestly, because he said things and I've been like, Eli, don't say that, like that's not okay. And he's like, well, all my other friends say it. Okay,
So
that doesn't mean you can.
Yeah. Maybe be better than your friends. Now, there is I wouldn't say psychological, but there is this concept called the euphemism treadmill. I mentioned it at the open. The idea is that you have a slur directed toward a community, very terrible to use. It also is very common to use at the time. Like, my aunt is autistic, and at the time she was diagnosed, the R word was the official medical term, right? So the next step is in the euphemism treadmill is that word stops being used and you replace it with another word until that word becomes derogatory, and so on and so on. That's the idea behind the euphemism treadmill. So let's look at this more broadly, instead of just focusing on the R word. What other things do people say that just don't work?
I feel a lot of racist jokes like are gonna fall into that line, so I'm just gonna put them all there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I can't think of many, which is also very surprising because I hear a lot on like a daily basis.
What about you, Andromeda?
Well, interestingly enough, a lot of the times nowadays when you refer to the LGBTQ community as a whole, it is no longer considered offensive to say queer, although I myself and many people in the LGBTQ community have expressed their reclaiming of the word and the like destigmatizing of it, but I still myself don't feel comfortable using it.
Another thing, as a racist joke, people will refer to black people as monkey, which I feel that's definitely going to fall into. I think it's already has.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, if you're not with the right people, I mean, you're going to get punched in the face. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, in the LGBTQ community, would saying queer be the same as black people? Because I do hear this a lot at school. A couple black people are talking together and they call each other the N-word.
Yeah.
And that's like a thing, you know, and I understand that that's a cultural thing, you know. Funny thing, my mom is very much, I don't want to hear that in music ever. And I'm like, Mom, there's a big difference between Kendrick Lamar saying it and, to name a white rapper, Jack Harlow saying it, you know?
I was going to say Eminem, but he got a pass.
But
You got to hear about that?
but
No.
Oh, well, okay.
But back to my question, is that the same? You know? Does that work in the same way?
Not exactly. I would say it's almost the opposite. Nobody would use the N-word to describe a whole group of black people or the black community as a whole. And in the inverse sense, you would never typically call a single individual LGBTQ person queer. So yes, it's sort of got a similar idea behind it, but a vastly different application, almost the exact opposite.
It's kind of a reclamation is kind of a reversal of the euphemism treadmill then.
It is, yeah. I would say.
So, Andromeda, do you think that people in the, like, I think I already know the answer to this, but so in the community of the LGBTQ, it's okay to call another person who, like, identifies as the same way as you in same sexuality as, it does feel weird to say queer, even if it is generally accepted. It does feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
It's
By
a
far.
bit of an odd word.
Yeah, but refer to another person of the LGBTQ as queer or gay, just the general.
Well, I'm not sure. Like I said, you wouldn't really use queer to refer to an individual person, but I do see people, both straight people making fun of gay people and presumably LGBTQ people to other LGBTQ people calling each other gay, which is kind of an insult.
Mm-hmm.
But then within the LGBTQ community, it's kind of just a teasing joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I will say, I hang out with a lot of LGBTQ people, and from what I have seen from the people I associate with, queer is sometimes used as a term for an identity, as a catch-all term when people feel like all the other labels don't quite apply, so that's the closest thing you can get, you know? Of course, there is a lot of nuance to that. That is just what I have heard.
What would you say, because I talked about how there's a line that you don't cross. Where in a close friend group would you say that line is? This goes to everybody in the room.
In a close friend group?
In a close friend group, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if it oversteps the boundaries of another person within that tight-knit circle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't ever want to, it's rule number 2. You don't be a knob, especially not to your buddies.
A knob?
I don't want to say the other thing.
I'm trying to think what the other thing is now.
You don't want to be bad. You don't want to, you do sometimes want to be rude to your buddies. I mean,
Yeah.
I just called you a little baby child boy because you're a sophomore and you're a little itty bitty.
I'm a little bit, okay. We can get into
But,
this later.
that's, you don't want to cross that boundary.
Yeah.
And the other big thing is, again, you don't want to say a lot of these things in a public place in general. It'd be bad if someone overheard it.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, for me personally, there are certain things I'm, even with my close friends, never going to say.
Yeah.
I do curse a lot around my friends. I will never use the B word.
Fair.
Yeah, never. That's
Fair.
It's just not okay in my mind. It's not okay in my mind. And I also don't think it applies to a lot of jokes either.
Yeah.
So
there's a line I don't cross in my friend group. It's not necessarily with like profanity. It's more of personal, I guess, trauma or circumstances. So we don't, as long as I'm comfortable, we can joke about how I don't have a dad as much as we like.
Mm-hmm.
But with another one of my friends, he doesn't have a mom. I don't joke about that ever. My friend, not gonna say his name, but we'll call him Aiden, who struggles with mental health issues. We don't ever joke about that in any way, shape, or form. But I had a really good question. I lost it. Charlie Spiel.
Well, a broader question that I think might help us out from each of us, and I think I've already kind of said my piece about this, from the rest of you guys, what are 2 or 3 words that you will never say under any circumstances, whether it be in public or with a close friend, just that's not all right with you?
The C word, the R word, and we try and normally succeed to not, of course, with more of our atheist friends, but we try to maintain a not necessarily like non-religious, but more of a, we don't joke about our religion. Like, we don't let people joke about how we feel about who rules things and whatnot. We don't joke about that in any way. Isabel?
In our friend group, I will say that a lot of my friends do this, but I try to avoid it. They'll like say like, oh, like kill myself, or oh, like that just hits really wrong for me. And so like I really try to avoid that. And the only other thing I can think off the top of my head is like LGBTQ, like derogatory terms, stuff like that. We try to avoid that because I also have some friends that are a part of the community. And honestly, I think that even if like you don't have friends that are close to you, why would you say it at all?
There's, this is a little bit of a difficult question for me because there's a lot of things I won't say.
Yeah.
Obviously, you probably picked up I don't swear, but that's just because I'm not in the habit of doing it. I think it's common sense not to use any slurs that you're not like a part of a community from. But in the same sense, I just don't really use slurs in general. I could technically use the R word, but I won't. I could technically use, well, there's several LGBTQ slurs, but I won't use any of them because, like, I know technically I could, so they say, reclaim those things, but it still doesn't feel comfortable to me, so I just don't say them.
Would you say in that little cultural community, is it important to have, that's a very open-ended question, is it important to have that community of people like you in that same sense?
Can you be more specific?
So
Yeah, that's very vague.
I'm trying to like close it, but you know. So are you okay with me, how would you like to be referred with your mental?
You can say that I'm autistic, neurodivergent, whatever the medical terms are now.
Okay. So, as a neurodivergent person, do you have any friends that have the same?
Sort of, but
Sort
not
of.
quite.
Okay.
I have a couple friends who have ADHD or whose families strongly suspect that they do but haven't been able to get them tested. I don't personally have any autistic friends, but I do have some other neurodivergent friends.
Would you say that those people, neurodivergent people, being close with you makes you more comfortable than if not?
I would say I feel like I click with them more naturally. We understand each other a little bit better, but it doesn't make me feel more comfortable to say the things I wouldn't normally say.
Yeah. Because predominantly white school, we all know this.
Yeah.
Just like even being able to, there's a new freshman, and we're going to call him AJ. And just being around him makes that school feel 10 times better. Because he looks like me, he acts like me, we had the same hair at one point. We've gone through the same type of things, and it's just that overall community that makes you feel safer, especially in a place where you're just completely unfamiliar, even if you've been going there for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And I think that community thing is what is important about all this, right? We as humans naturally like to fit each other into boxes.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Speaking about, so I'm gonna cut you off.
go ahead.
Would you say your social community on a different? So would you say your social community is a different level of maybe people that are like your family, close friends, or so like people that share the same interests as you?
Okay, I've got no idea what you're on about.
Are you more comfortable like in your own social community than you would be if you were in an unordinary place?
I do think I'm more comfortable with them. I also think I like people, and I like meeting new people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that I am as comfortable with people I don't know as with people I do know. It's just that the margin of that is really small for me personally.
So would you rather meet new people or stay in your circle?
Meet new people.
Meet new people?
Yeah.
Andromeda?
That question specifically?
Yeah.
I would rather stay in my circle. I mean, I love to meet new people, but it's very rare I meet someone I connect with, so.
I think a little bit of both. It kind of depends, I guess it kind of depends on the scale. Like, do I want to meet 5 different new people at once? No, not really. But, if one of my friends is introducing a new friend, then, yeah, definitely. I think it's important to meet people of all different backgrounds and all different personalities because our world is made up of all different types of people.
Yeah. And it's important to bring all of this together, I think the idea in general is you should always think about what someone else is going to think about what you say. None of us are alone living, and we should, in general, let's not go out of our way to bother someone. Let's not go out of our way to break rule number 2. I think we should all, especially as of late, try a lot harder to be good people.
So those people that cross that line, would you say it's more like they know what they're doing, or is it ignorance? Is it a lack of understanding?
I think it depends on the person.
So that girl in your graphic, I'm not
intro broadcast class.
Intro to broadcast class.
That girl.
Would you say it's ignorance or she knows what she's doing?
That's actually a very good bookend to all this. I think this girl, by now, she has to know with how many times I and the teacher have said, hey, you should stop talking like this. I've told her off about this stuff before, She knows what she's doing. It's just that what I've observed as of late is that there are a lot of people who only care about being funny and nothing else. It doesn't matter who it is they're laughing at, as long as they're laughing. And really, those people just need to look beyond what's in front of them. There are things that are more important than being funny. And that's what we have to remember overall.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. I've been Charlie.
I've been Nikis.
Isabel?
I am apparently Andromeda.
Thank you all. This has been the I Can Relate podcast. Have a great night. The I Can Relate podcast is made possible by the generosity of Lee Summit Cares.